Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Oftentimes we hear people talk about energy and consciousness and how this all relates to the chakras and your spiritual development. Unfortunately, most of the time we hear these words being thrown around. It's assumed that we know what the definition is, but most of the time we just roll with it, not understanding what we're talking about. So, in an effort to provide an evolving wave of understanding, I'd like to talk a little bit about energy and its role in your spiritual development. So, it's important to consider first off that you are not your body. Your body is merely a receptor, a tool, an instrument. Consciousness is not generated from the mind. The mind is a sensory organ. Just like your optical senses, right? Your eyes are rendered inert when no light is present. The same way that your auditorial senses, your ears, are rendered inert when the vibration of sound is not present. The same way your mind is rendered inert when consciousness is not present. The sensory organs don't generate sensation. They merely receive sensation. Your mind receives thoughts. Your mind receives consciousness. This is why when you sit down to meditate, you're constantly bombarded with random thoughts of all types. Doesn't matter what level you're at, you experience this. This is because you're constantly receiving signals. And these signals are coming from a multitude of places. Most of them are coming from your body, from your sense organs. But consciousness is an energy. And it's being received by the mind and translated into thought. The same way that light is received by our eyes and translated into vision. The same way that sound is received by the ears and translated into hearing. But the thing that we have to understand are two principles here. Principle number one is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can either be translated, right? Translated to a similar medium, or it will have to be transformed when it passes through a different medium. The other thing that we have to realize is that our bodies are severely limited with its range of reception. For example, it's commonly known that you can only receive sound within a certain range, right? I believe it's like 4,000 hertz to 40,000 hertz or whatever. The same way that the eyes can only see in a very small range of frequency from infrared all the way up to ultraviolet. But there's definitely frequencies above and below those ranges. There's frequencies in between the ranges of sound and sight. Because frequency and vibration is one thing. It just takes different senses to receive them differently. For example, slower vibrations are sound, right? And the faster they go, we begin to feel it as warmth. And the faster it goes, it begins to give off light, right? We begin to see it. As the vibrations go higher and higher, it leaves our range of sight perception. This can be witnessed, say for example, the Kabbalion gives a great example. If you have a spinning top, right? At first, you hear a low rumble of vibration. Now as it's speeding up faster and faster, the vibration starts to raise in pitch. It starts to get louder and louder, higher pitched until it leaves the perception of sound. Then you begin to notice that the colors change, right? And at the same time, heat is being generated. It goes from slightly warm and it starts to increase in heat, right? The colors start to go from red to orange to yellow to green to blue to violet to bright white until eventually, theoretically, if it were to continue in that fashion, it would leave our range of perception. Everything emits a certain type of frequency. All of existence is frequency. It's just that consciousness uses our minds and uses the other five senses to interpret the world around us. So those are the two things to keep in mind. Number one, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only translated into a different frequency. And number two, our reception of these frequencies is very limited. So as you stand right now, and as I stand right now, there's things going on around us, all types of things going on around us that we literally cannot perceive. There is an ether in the empty space, and in this ether, frequencies are transmitted. Does this sound far-fetched and wild? How is it that you're getting internet on your laptop or your computer? How is it that you're receiving signals on your phone? Because frequencies, high frequencies, are being transmitted at great distances and received by this little piece of computer in your pocket, this phone that you're looking through right now. It's receiving a high frequency through the ether, Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, whatever it stands for. The same thing's going on with your body, with your mind. You're receiving a signal, a frequency from somewhere else. Being that you're completely and totally absorbed in vibrations all around you, not just from 5G and Wi-Fi, but everything. The trees, the birds, the buildings, other people around you. Other people around you emit around them an aura of energy. Just like you have a candle or a campfire or even the sun, right? The source of it is very hot. It's generating a lot of energy, so much energy that it's pushing outward, right? It's got this atmosphere around it of energy. The energy that was inside of the sun is being pushed out, and it's being transmuted into something else called heat and also light, right? It's being perceived in multiple senses. You can't really see the heat, you can't really see the light, but it's there. Just like a person may have a bad mood, may have a bad vibe about them. They don't have to say anything or do anything, but you can sense it, you can feel it, right? This starts to bring a little bit of clarity when we talk about the clairvoyancy and the clairaudience and the different clair senses. It's not so far-fetched when you really put it into these terms. This is why it's a good idea to buy the book, The Kabbalion, and read about what it's talking about. All this information I'm saying here comes from the Kabbalion. But essentially, we live in this world of energy. Consciousness is a form of energy, and it's using each one of our bodies to experience the world around us. Now, we might mistakenly call the body a prison because we're trapped in it and existence is suffering. We're perpetually needing to kill things and consume them just to keep our energy going. Or you can look at it as a temple, because within this temple of nature, we cultivate that essence, that spirit, that energy that can't be described in words and can't be compared to any other thing in nature. It is within this temple that we get to know this unborn spirit, this unmanifest, this pure energy that comes directly from the divine. As a matter of fact, it is the divine. The Christians will say it's the God in me, right? God exists in all things. In the Upanishads, it talks about how Brahman is in everything. The Atman is in everything. This is the same concept. Divinity is in each one of us. It is consciousness. It is the very thing that enables us to have this experience. Now, where the illusion comes in is identifying with the sensory organ, identifying with the body, identifying with matter, identifying with thought. Matter and thought are manifestations of consciousness, but they are not consciousness. The body is a machine, and we have different energy centers within us, different centers that move this energy around, and it enables us to perceive these higher frequencies that are all around us at all times. We call these the chakra points. The same way that you have the cables that run from the electric plant to your light bulb, right? The electric plant, or whatever the place is, generates this energy and sends it through the conveyed wires, right, to this light bulb, to where that energy is converted into light and heat. The same way that your body receives this energy and it travels up through these chakra centers. Now, the more balanced and harmonious your energy centers are, the more pure energy that you'll receive, which means that the more clearly it's going to transmit around you, the more clearly it's going to present itself in your life. This is why it's important to balance your chakras, so that your experience will be balanced. A lot of this does have to do with your mental state. The mental state is a sort of filter for this energy. This is why it's so important to make sure that your perspective is in line. Maintain your frame. Be ever vigilant. Exert your influence. Always be leading. These 4 precepts that I got from working with King Payman. The way that you see the world is the way that it's reflected back to you. If you're constantly looking for an enemy, constantly looking for, look what they did to us, look what they're doing to us, look how they're hurting us, look how they've got the power and we just have to suffer. If that's the type of eyes that you're seeing the world with, this is what you're receiving back. This is what you're communicating to the universe, the type of world that you want to live in. I gave up that way of thinking years and years and years and years ago. And every day I hear people ask me questions and come to me with issues with that same mindset. And they ask me, hey, what banishing spell can I do? What demon can I summon? But my answer lately has been, let's not worry about these spells. Let's worry about your perspective on this issue. 9 times out of 10, when these people take my advice as far as adjusting their perception of the issue, things start to become a lot more clear. The solution starts to present itself. This whole spirit game is easy. We make it difficult. We make it difficult with our thought process. Everything is in balance. Everything is harmonious. Everything is working exactly the way that it's supposed to. There really is nothing that you have to do. Right? Being in the world of doing, we're under the impression and the illusion that there's so much to do. But there's nothing left to do. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is in divine order. The problem is, our mental state isn't at that point where we understand that totally. So until you get your mental state to the place where you do accept that the world is in order, it's going to be in chaos. Now, that doesn't mean you can just sit on your ass, be lazy, and not do anything at all. What I'm saying is there's no struggle, there's no stress. Things are figured out. Just like the way that you are experiencing the world through this finite perspective of your body and your mind, like we talked about those higher frequencies that can't be perceived, there's a higher part of you that is in connection with ultimate divinity. Things are under control. For real, for real. And this is how we're able to work with these demonic spirits, right? Because these are frequency below our consciousness, and we're able to move these things around with ease because they're a lower part of us. But it's all connected, all of it. So, as usual, take what works for you, leave what doesn't, but most of all, test it for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research, but most importantly, do your own practice and see what you come up with. When you sit down and you meditate and you be still for just a moment, you're able to get out of this world of motion and movement and having to do things. And you start to see, you start to be very still and connect with divinity. Divinity is still. Divinity is complete. There's nothing left for divinity to do. When you're able to slow down and stop and kind of breach through to that world of non-motion, you start to see how everything is already in place. There's no need to worry or panic. Do what it is that makes you happy. Stop focusing on the negative. What you focus on does expand. And read the Kabbalion. But in any case, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. And as always, peace.